Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Lisa Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Lisa Florida, and today we have an extra special guest. From delivering pizzas to a 9-figure real estate career, Pamela is a serial entrepreneur and the founder of the Moshi Group. The Moshi Group is a real estate company comprising of development, construction, and brokerage based in Boston, Massachusetts. She has recently released a podcast called Underdog, which hit Apple Podcasts new and noteworthy within 30 days of launching, catapulting her show into the top 1% of podcasts. Pamela interviews guests from all walks of life to share their underdog story. Pamela is deeply passionate about helping empower others to follow their dreams and breaking through their underdog challenge. Welcome, Pamela Bardi, to the 8 Billion Podcast. How are you?
Lisa, thank you so much for having me here. I am so excited to be here and I'm doing absolutely lovely. How are you doing?
I am doing great. We were just talking about it, right? Life just never stops. It just gets crazier and crazier.
Mm-hmm. When you're in alignment with your goals, right? I remember the beginning of this year, I wrote down so much and now it's all happening. And I'm like, whoa, life is getting wild in a great way. Right?
No, isn't it amazing? And sometimes you'll forget about certain things, you'll have some thoughts and intentions, and then you'll forget about it. And you're like, oh my gosh, I actually manifested it in real true form. Or sometimes even the dreams come out even greater than what you had even imagined. So that's true blessings, right?
Amen to that. Absolutely. 2021 is going to be, it already is a great year. As we're coming out of this whole COVID situation, I think that summertime looks very, very bright. Like post May, I think we're going to be in really good shape. So I'm pumped. I'm excited.
I know, right? I'm excited too. I actually believe that's the timeline. I think that maybe the world will open up. I think we're going to start, we're seeing a lot of activity that's just going on right now. So May is going to be an absolutely phenomenal month and it's just going to open up the world. So we're seeing so much improvement.
I can't wait. I am ready for it.
Well, you are a busy woman. Congratulations on the success of Underdog Podcast.
Thank you so much. It has been such a ride, with that. And it was it was about a year and a half ago. And there was a voice inside my head that was like, Pam, you're doing excellent in your career. What are you doing for the world? Right. And that question hit me like a brick. And then, I came up with the concept of a show and everything and had some pivots, turned it into a podcast. Because I think I may have told you that before it was like a sit down TV show style.
Oh, okay.
And then COVID hit and the studios closed. So I freaked out. And then it accidentally became a podcast. So it's so funny how that all, works out for the better, right? Blessings in disguise, I say. And it's just been an amazing journey, just meeting some of the most incredible people throughout the world and just sharing their story and seeing the similarity of that we are all human. The common denominator in all of us is we've all struggled. We've all gone through pain. We've all gone through our underdog challenge. So it's just an honor. It's an honor to be in this space and just learn and be inspired,
No, absolutely. 2020, I think the whole world was underdogs and we all had to pivot and figure it all out, right? All at the same time. It was a collective energy and rightfully so, because it was either one, you could give in to the fear of the media, or you could take these challenges and turn within and just do something amazing. And that's what you did.
Right. And then, at the time it's always like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then you just got to pivot. And I think that, 2020 really challenged everybody in that respect. It was like, nobody was used to having to pivot that quickly, especially bigger corporations, right? And state agencies and stuff like that. There were so many times that I would look at something that I'd have to go inside the office for, right? But now it's been made available online. And I'm like, you guys should have done this from day one, but now it's made available. So it's so interesting to see even state and city agencies have to morph into and accommodate the whole COVID situation. And I'm just wondering, how's it going to be once everything opens up. I think a lot of the changes are here to stay. I don't know. What do you think, Liza?
I think the same thing, to be honest with you. I think, it was such a challenge. I mean, I think it was a huge, undertaking for a lot of big corporations to go like home base, right? Or telecommute. And then when they started to realize, like the performance is great, if not even greater, because a lot of these, parents get to take care of their kids, at the same time, spend time with them, and then, enjoy their home life. It just, it's just the use of time became so much, better, in terms of, instead of, especially here in Southern California, you're talking about traffic, like hour and a half commutes each way. So you're spending 3 hours each day in a car just commuting. And now all of that has been taken out. So, and then on top of all of that, right now, a lot of big corporations are also thinking, all this overhead that we spend on the commercial space. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be really interesting from our perspective, or especially you with so much knowledge, like where all that commercial space is going to go.
I think it's going to get cut up. I think that the companies and entrepreneurs will take up smaller footprints and consolidate. Truth be told, I don't think anyone's going to be, some might still, but like 10,000 square foot office spaces, I think that'll get condensed. And I think that's what we'll start to see across the industry in commercial real estate for sure. On the retail and office side, I truly believe that.
What are you seeing in Boston right now? Is it just, are they still sitting? Are the commercial spaces sitting still?
They are. Okay. They are. And they're going to have to get creative, and they're going to have to get creative fast. So what I am seeing on the creative end of things is that people are taking up smaller footprints. Like retailers won't take this like massive, 15,000 square foot space, but maybe they'll take 2,500 because they don't need that big of a footprint anymore. But what's happening is they need it on the warehousing side, the inventory. Yes. So it's like smaller retail footprint, but warehousing in the back. So this is where industrial comes in, and they're coming in hot. The industrial asset space is just unbelievably skyrocketing. Amazon has a lot to do with it, but it's just like, whoa.
You're not the first person that said that, but it just makes complete sense.
Because I'm like, real estate's not taking up less. It's just changing where the needs are, right? Smaller retail footprints, bigger warehouses, because they've got to ship out. So it's really interesting to see the trends and how it's affecting real estate, especially commercial.
Yeah, no kidding. Because I have a family member that's actually in commercial space. So she, they did like big retail commercial. But now she's saying, a lot of everything in the background is actually moving towards conversion. So it's, even though you're seeing the big commercial space sitting right now, that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of work going on behind the scenes of what the plans are already, because we had to shift and pivot pretty quickly. So
absolutely. And it's just going to be smaller spaces. You know what I mean? The spaces will be filled. It'll just be different tenants. So now commercial landlords won't be dealing with like a handful of tenants. They're going to be dealing with a lot of tenants, because that's the only way to make the space work. Almost like a co-working space, but not really.
So currently, what does your real estate business entail right now? Because, I've said in your intro, it's development, it's residential. Is it flipping? Could you give us an understanding of where your real estate business is right now?
Yeah. So mostly I focus on the development of units below 10 units, residential. That's what I typically do right now. That's what I build. That's what I renovate in and around the Boston market here in Massachusetts. So that's what I primarily focus on. So I'm a developer, real estate developer first. And then second, I have my brokerage. Third, I have my construction license. So our development company has our own in-house construction team. So we do all of our own construction on our development sites. Like right now we have 12 projects. So it's a little bit crazy, but it's great, but that's pretty much where I started, was a real estate developer. And, all I wanted to do was flip and create places. That's all I wanted to do. And shortly thereafter, I got my real estate license, because I'm like, I really need to understand my numbers, of what I'm buying these assets for, what I'm selling them. I want the best access, and the best access, as you know, is becoming an agent and having all that market data. And so that's why I got it. And then it turned into, hey, Pam, can you help me with this? Hey, Pam, can you help me with that? And so I got into the brokerage game by accident, if you will. And then that led me into the commercial realms where I work with like massive REITs and funds that buy multifamily assets and things like that. So it's really like the journey has been super interesting. But I always say first and foremost, I'm a real estate developer, and then everything else kind of comes secondary.
I mean, and if people don't know you, Pam, I mean, like you are a young, driven lady and you have such a great heart and spirit on top of that. And it shows through, your work in your career and then also an underdog. And you started out delivering pizzas, right? Is that how long ago was that?
Oh man. So I came to the US when I was 5, started working at my parents' restaurant when I was 10. By the time I was 18, I was running their store. By the time I was 21, I had 2 of my own restaurants plus theirs. And then I decided to get into real estate development as a different stream of revenue when I was 21. So up until I opened my first restaurants, I was delivering pizzas. So that was only like 8 years ago.
Only 8 years ago. I'm curious. I know this is probably like out there. What were you like as a kid? I mean, because you really are such a young lady, and I really like admire your work ethics, just everything about you. You would think that like with all the experience you have, you're already in the business like 20, 30 years and all this kind of stuff. What were you like as a kid? Were you?
And up until 7th grade, I was a very shy kid, like a very shy kid. And it wasn't until I got into middle school, into a private school, that kind of shifted for me. I had like started becoming more welcome, became class president, and the rest changed. I really was that kid in the back. When I was bullied throughout like 4th and 5th grade, like I really just kind of kept to myself because I was like a little immigrant kid. I didn't really like know how to speak English that well from like 1st grade to like 5th grade. And I just didn't really mesh well. I couldn't really understand a lot of people. I don't know. I was so disconnected as a kid. And then, my parents, so I was in public school up until 7th grade. And then in 7th grade, we moved to Boston. And in Boston, I went to a private school because my parents did not want me to go to a public school in Boston. So I went there and it was much smaller classroom sizes. Everybody knew my dad because his restaurant was in the same city. So I felt like, and the teachers cared about you. I don't know. There's this whole nother level of like love there. And they really like nourished me. And as a kid, I started becoming more confident. I started becoming more outgoing. I became class president. And then the rest is history. Then that's when I started to become very extroverted, was in like 7th grade, middle school. So, and then the rest is history.
Isn't that amazing though? Because that's why I like asking these questions that are a little bit of the one-offs, especially with 8 billion podcasts, right? Because we're here to, or at least the premise of this show is to highlight some of the stories of people that have overcome, certain adversities in their lives. And there's a reason why they find success. And in most cases, it's through sometimes hardships, it's bullying like yourself. It was going through such deep pain in order to, come out. And then it becomes the love that they receive from, whether they find it internally or exteriorly, that ends up giving them that transformation to move forward and do something great. So that's why I was just really curious, because especially like I'm saying at such a young age, because you're still very young and you have got your whole life ahead of you. So I just want to, commend you for so much great work. I can only imagine what you'll do in the next 10 years, Pam. That's why I'm all like, I'm hanging on to Pam. I'm going everywhere with Pam.
You're so amazing. No, I mean, truthfully, it's those cheerleaders in your life that really make a difference, right? And those cheerleaders for me were my parents, my teachers, my mentors, everybody as I was growing up. And that's the reason why I got to where I got to at such a young age. I'm 29 now. From delivering pizzas to a 9-figure real estate career is crazy to think about, but it was one step at a time.
Yeah.
Step at a time. And it was the mentors, it was all the relationships, it was all these different things that helped get me here. So I give all the credit to them, but in 7th grade, that metamorphosis, from going from that kid who sat in the back, didn't want to speak, didn't want to do a thing, to being like class president and a leader and all of these things. And that comes from affirmations too. Like you always got to be careful, when you're speaking to any child, right? You don't know how much your words hold so much power, right? And it was these teachers that were like, no, Pam, you're great. Go out there and, why not become class president? You know what I mean? But like, you really need that affirmation as a kid, because you're just like, otherwise, I mean, you don't know who you are, right? Like you're establishing yourself, you're in this world and you're just like lost, so it's an interesting thing. But I would say the cheerleaders are a huge part of it, who surrounds you and that kind of thing. So
right.
Definitely huge.
Now, is that how you came up with the title for your podcast, Underdog?
Yeah. I mean, the name so when I was thinking about a show and thinking about the show name, I was like, like, what do I represent? What am I all about? What's my family about? Right. And the name just came to me like that. Underdog.
Right.
That's my whole persona. That's my whole life. That's everything, that's what my parents are. Like, it's just like me to the T. So I was like, you know what? And then when I started researching it more, I'm like, you know what? Everyone has an underdog story. Mm-hmm. Everybody, some way, somehow, and then that's the beautiful thing, is like, it's the one common denominator that connects us all is that. And what makes us human is pain. Right.
Right. Right. And so like what you were saying, in 2020, you had to pivot because at first it was supposed to be a television show, right? So did you have a lot of your guests lined up and then that's how you started recording the podcast? Because for, like I said, congratulations on the new and noteworthy. And that's not easy by any means. There's so many different podcasts that are coming out. I'm navigating through it. I was just like, I didn't know anything about the podcasting world. So I'm giving myself a little bit of kudos for just making it this far.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I mean, what it was is, I had mentioned to you that we were doing like a sit down TV show style setup in the beginning. We were filming in January and February. And of course I had guests lined up and everything. But then when the studios closed, I was like, what do I do? Nobody can come into the studio. I can't record. What do I do? And so serendipity, I had a friend of mine who was like, Pam, I know this marketing coach. She's amazing. And I just think that you being connected to her, there's just some beautiful synergies that can happen. And so I was like, okay. So I had a conversation with her and she was like, she's a marketing coach and she also does podcast launches. And she's like, Pam, why are you nervous about this? Just turn this into a podcast. You can interview people all around the world, do it through Zoom. You don't need a studio. And I was like, what? And then then it just, the light switch hit. And I was like, you know what? This makes perfect sense. And so I basically hired her and her team to do the podcast launch so that way we hit the ground running. Mm-hmm. And that really paid off big time because we made it to new and noteworthy. And then it just set the stage and set the momentum for the launch. And it's just been amazing ever since.
Wow. It's true. I went the opposite end, but it's okay. I caught up somehow. Oh, I was just like, mine was this time last year, no clue. If you had told me fast forward 1 year, Lisa, you'd be podcasting, you would have met Pamela and Dave Seymour. You'd done some, I would just be like, what are you talking about? But I knew for me too, something inside was really changing. And I really wanted to do such more purposeful and intentional work. And so I started out live streaming with an app in the Philippines. And then everyone was like, wow, your shows are great, but they're live streamed. So if they can't catch you at that certain time, how are we going to watch? How are you going to build your audience? They said, have you thought about podcasting? I said, no, I haven't. And then I looked into it and I started a podcast. But, you did go the right step in hiring your marketing gal. And she did such a phenomenal job for you, because what I did was I started it. I had a great production team, but at the same time, if I look back now, what I would have done, and I tell all these other podcasters when they ask me advice, I said, have your whole, at least first 5 episodes. Like, you know what I mean? Because once it launches, all you're going to keep doing is marketing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's all about, I mean, it's all about the marketing, right? It's all about the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to reach more people? It's marketing. So for me, my biggest mission right now is to empower as many underdogs as possible in this life. So, marketing is a huge part of that, because how else would I be able to reach them? So we're trying, we've got social media up and rolling and everything like that. So we're moving and grooving.
A lot of people ask me how I do it because they say, you're so busy and you're doing so many things. I was like, you've got to meet Pamela Barty. Can you take me through this girl is only 29 years old, has a podcast, as a real estate development, construction, everything. Take me through a typical day with you.
Oh my God. Every day is different, and the schedule changes by the hour sometimes, but, it's all about prioritizing and time blocking and delegating things to the team that, you don't need to handle. So that's my big thing is this year and last year spent delegating and just sending out things to the team that I don't need to do, that can be outsourced. So like I have an operations person, I have a digital media and marketing person full-time. Then I have my team of agents and all these things. So that way I can focus on what I need to focus on. So it's just a matter of writing down your priorities, time blocking them, and just staying organized and delegating all the stuff that you don't need to do. So
yeah,
it's way easier said than done, but that's my formula.
No, and that's what I'm transitioning to, is because, and that's why I was getting overwhelmed and burnt out. And I braked season 1 I didn't have an intention to actually break it, but I just come out of the mastermind program with Brandon. I learned so much and I really wanted to implement it. So I ended season 1, gave myself a break so then and then it still wasn't enough, but I'm starting to, everyone was just like, you've got to build that team. And so that's really what the start of everything is. So you could do what you do best, right? You could,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Because then how else? I mean, if you try to do it all, you're gonna burn. You're gonna crash and burn, and there will not be enough hours in your day to do that. So what I've learned is you've got to delegate, and you've got to time block what's most important to you, and also know how long your tasks take too, so you can properly allocate. Like for me, I've become like a master of time management, and that's how I can balance everything that I'm doing.
Right. So let me ask you, how did 2020 change you?
2020 really, it was like a transformative year for me, because I have my real estate career and I have everything that I've built there. And honestly, I mean, it was a big wake up call for me in 2020, because I was working on my podcast. Like I was transitioning from the show to a podcast, and then seeing the launch of it on October 8th, 2020, within 3 weeks we hit Apple's New and Noteworthy, which was insane. And just seeing the response from all of that really affirmed to me, like, Pam, you're meant to go out there and empower. So that's when I really got motivated to build my personal brand, even though I've been thinking about it for a while now. I mean, of course I have my real estate companies and all that in the background, but what I'm building right now is really truly the personal brand, which is, getting into public speaking, launching digital courses, launching coaching programs, things like that. So that's kind of where I'm stepping into. And then of course the Underdog podcast. So it's been a major balancing act this year, of balancing the two sort of companies in one. And then also having a wedding coming up is a little crazy all at once. So when I say master of time management, it's like literally master of time management. So, it's just a matter of prioritizing, time blocking, and like knowing what we're, and then the team has stepped in more than ever. So that's kind of been my 2020 was really just like a wake up call for me.
Congratulations. When is the wedding?
It was supposed to be last September, but we moved it to this September. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Pam, these are extraordinary times in your life. And it's all documented on podcasts, shows, everything, right?
Yes. Yes. It's a blessing, huge blessing.
So, we're well into 2021, or I can't even almost fathom the fact that we're almost done with first quarter. Yeah. I would say, what are your plans? What are the big plans for the remaining 3 quarters of 2021 for you? I know, like you said, big wedding coming up in September. What else are you looking to do for 2021?
The last quarter of 2021, I'm doing nothing but staying present for my wedding and family and that kind of thing, because I just, throughout the years, I've spent so much time building career, and business. And, what I promised myself was, once we get into like wedding season, I'm completely disconnecting from everything and just letting team handle it, because I really just want to be present. And that's something that I have not done enough. So that's kind of my commitment to 2021. But before that, the next 2 quarters are going to be super important, because basically getting all these projects done, like I mentioned, I have 12 of them, getting all of them wrapped up. So by the time wedding season comes, I'm all wrapped up. And then also launching my courses and launching my coaching programs and having that all sort of ready to roll. And then in the interim, whatever speaking engagements and things come up, definitely taking part in those. So that's kind of what the rest of 2021 personally looks like for me.
And I did notice you did mention, and I don't know if you mentioned this when we met about 3 weeks ago in person. You also have a book coming up.
Yep. I have a book coming out with co-authored with Jim Britt, Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, Tony Robbins, and a few other co-authors. Yeah, that was really incredible. So my section talks about the underdog formula and really how I got to where I am today and my story. So I'm excited for that to launch in a few weeks as well.
Oh my gosh. So that's actually, it's already in production and has a scheduled release date?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So the scheduled release date, that's still, the pendulum is still moving there, but it isn't publishing, if you will. So we're just waiting for the final go ahead so we can actually all launch, because there's a bunch of co-authors. So we kind of all have to be on the same page and make sure everything's wrapped up. So it's not solely me. So
right.
Everyone's on different schedules. So now we're just trying to find that date, but very soon.
I actually leave for Philadelphia next Wednesday because I'm going to attend with a friend, the Business Mastery, Tony Robbins Business Mastery. So I'm super excited because it's going to be my first Tony Robbins event.
Amazing. Yeah, Tony Robbins is out of this world, incredible. So I think you're really going to enjoy it and have so much fun. His programs are one of a kind, without a doubt.
Yeah. No kidding. Well, we covered everything in such a short span of time. And I know, I'd love to invite you back and share, maybe towards the end of, I know you're going to save the end of the year for your wedding and your season, but I'd love to have you back, give everyone and my audience an update on what you've done. I can only imagine what another year will do for you. And it's just going to continue to keep on getting better, Pam.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's such an honor to be here today. I love you. You're so amazing. Your energy is so amazing. And I'm pumped to see where everything goes for you as well, because you have such a beautiful journey ahead of you too. And, all the aspirations that you have. So I'm pumped to see that. And I would love, love, love to be back here and have another awesome episode with you.
Yes. And if you and your fiance, or maybe your husband at the time, want to ever come visit me here in Southern California, my home is open to you guys. So, it's wonderful to meet so many people. Now, if they want to get a hold of you, Pam, if anyone is interested in, of course, let my audience know if they'd like to get a hold of you, ask you questions about real estate, in Boston area, guys.
For sure. So I'm all over social media. So LinkedIn and Instagram are my 2 main channels. So Pamela Bardhi, you look me up and you'll find me, no problem. Bardhi. So Pamela space Bardhi, and you'll be able to find me LinkedIn, Instagram. Of course, I have my website and all that good stuff too, but those are the 2 primary ones where you can actually connect with me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the 8 Billion podcast, sharing your story and inspiring so many people. And I wish you continued success with the Underdog podcast. Keep on going, babe. And then on top of that, with the release of your book launch.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate you so much. And I'm just excited for what's to come. And I'm excited for what's to come for you too.
Thank you. Well, I'm pretty sure we'll be on another podcast together. So stay tuned, everyone. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If it's moved you in any way, please review and share your thoughts or text me your thoughts at 949-247-2800.